But in the world of Caesar, I find it easier to be able to meet the obligations imposed upon me by Caesar. There is a tax to be paid for Caesar. I must have the money that Caesar demands. I must meet my obligations to life here in the world of Caesar. Rent must be paid. Clothes must be bought. Food must be bought. Transportation, all these things I must find Caesar's coin to pay for it. So I use the law for that purpose. I have no desire to be a millionaire, but I do desire the comforts that a nice steady flow of income allows, without the anxiety that must come to everyone when he can't meet his obligations to life. So I use the law for that purpose. And the law for my friends who are in conditions that calls for, I would say, the wise use of the law. And I call it praying when I take you before my mind's eye and see you as I would like to see you, the man that you would like to see yourself. If I assume that you are, and I get the thrill that you are, I call that praying. I do not turn to any being on the outside and ask anything of any being on the outside. I do not get down on my knees and pray to any outside God. I do not repeat any of the words concerning a prayer, that people fashion some little prayer in words. None of that. I sit in a comfortable chair or recline on the bed and think of you. When I think of you, I simply think of you as I would like to see you. And work myself in a matter of seconds to a pitch where something goes out of me. It's an actual feeling like some energy goes out. It's an actual creative act. And then I drop it at that moment. You don't repeat the creative act after you reach the point of explosion. You've actually brought the point to explosion and you drop it. And let that seed now grow in its own wonderful manner and externalize itself in the world. I call that the subjective appropriation of the objective hope. You tell me what you would like to be, that's your hope. Well, now, my appropriation, subjectively, of your objective hope is all that I do. I have in the audience tonight a lady whose story I told you about a month ago, or 2 months ago. She was here when I opened the first night, and I see her here tonight. When she wrote me and thanked me for the exercise of my imagination on her behalf. And I told you her request at the time before I left for San Francisco. That's way back in June. Well, here she is tonight. I'm not going to point her out to anyone so that no one will surround her and try to ask questions of her. But she is here. And she was the one who had asked of me in the letter, say, would you please exercise your imagination lovingly on my behalf? And then told me her problem. As I read the letter, I was sitting in my big easy chair. I put the letter down, brought it before my mind's eye, and did not for one moment hesitate until it only took me about 10 seconds. 10 seconds to actually hear her tell me that it had all happened. It was fresh in my mind's eye, the request. And then I dropped it. I never thought 1 second after that concerning it. It was done. I got confirmation here after my opening day, which was back in October. October the 4th I opened, and a week or 2 weeks later she wrote me a letter. And she thanked me for exercising my imagination lovingly on her behalf. She did not itemize anything in the letter. She implied in that letter that things were as she desired them to be. I tell you, believe in God. As you're told in the 14th chapter of John, you believe in God, believe also in me. For I and my Father are one, and he who sees me sees the Father. He sent me into the world, and the sender and the sent are one. But in the world, I seem to be inferior to myself, the sender. So I could also say, I and my Father are one, but my Father is greater than I. I am not inferior to my essential being, who is Father. But in the office of the sent, I am handicapped. And so I'm in the world of Caesar. But I know who I am. And I'm trying to tell you and everyone who will listen to me who you are. So believe in your own wonderful human imagination. And you can start tonight from where you are. And you will go as far as you want to go. Just as far. And you have no handicaps other than the handicaps you put upon yourself. If you believe that because you have no background, socially, financially, intellectually, well then, that's what you believe. And you place these things upon yourself. If you do not accept them as final, well then, they're only barriers as long as you accept them. You don't accept them, and you go about your business applying this eternal principle that all things must bring forth after their kind. And you have the choice of the seed that you will plant. You can plant a good seed or a bad seed. It's entirely up to you. But I would suggest you stop spending your thoughts, your time, and your money, and start investing your thoughts, your time, and your money. When you spend, you lay out without hope of return. When you invest, you expect a return on equity. And so you have the choice of seed. It's entirely up to you. I will select to be this man or that man or the other man. And you envy no one. How could you envy anyone when you know who you are? How could you possibly envy any person in this world? He has $1 billion, let him have $1 billion. He wants 2, let him have 2. Only this past month, a man whose income is supposed to be in excess of $5 billion, not million, billion. He was a young man, only 47 years of age. And yet he blew his brains out. 47. And for reasons not disclosed in the paper, he's from Sweden. And here is this huge banker, many, many generations back. And they built up this enormous fortune. He was the head of the family, with a private fortune in excess of $5 billion. And then one day he simply blew his brains out. So money did not in any way influence his decision to call it a day. So it's not money, but if you want money, make it money. Don't fall in love with money, but you need it in the world of Caesar. Then assume that it's coming in a normal, natural way, without knowing from whom or where. You go to the end and dwell in the end just as though it were true. And may I tell you, it will be true. But set your hope fully upon the grace that is coming to you as the revelation of Jesus Christ within you. But Jesus Christ is the Lord and His Christ. That's Jesus Christ. Not one name, as it were, but the Lord's Christ would be David. And so let me close it with a little poem that Browning wrote concerning David, based upon, or he was inspired by the 17th chapter, the 16th and 17th chapter of 1 Samuel. And here he has the insane king called Saul. And standing before Saul is the youth David. And David said to the king, O Saul, a face like my face shall receive thee, and a man like to me thou shalt love, and be loved by forever. A hand like this hand shall throw open the gates of new life to thee. See the Christ stand. That's David. And then, but who is he addressing? Humanity, who has forgotten who he is. That's a form of insanity. It's amnesia. We have forgotten that we are God. So we are Saul. And in that state we are called insane, demented. And the Christ stands before us, and he is David. And a face like my face, said he, shall receive you. And a man like unto me thou shalt love, and be loved by forever. And a hand like this hand shall throw open the gates of new life to thee. See the Christ stand. But may I tell you, when you see, and you will see, the Ancient of Days, you will be incorporated into his body. He will embrace you, and you'll become one body, one spirit with the Ancient of Days. And I am not an artist to paint the picture. But when you see David, David is the image of the Ancient of Days, but he is eternal youth. And the Ancient of Days, you cannot put age upon him. You cannot say he is this age or that age or any age. He is without age, and yet he is the Ancient of Days. That's who David sees. That's his father. He is the image of his father, only he is the eternal youth. And you, incorporated into the Ancient of Days, you are God the Father. And that's why David recognizes you as his father. So he finds David. And David said unto him, Thou art my father, my God, and the rock of my salvation. And he said to David, Thou art my son. So here it is perfect. You are, regardless of the pigment of your skin now, regardless of who you are now, you are destined to be awake one day as the Ancient of Days. And you will know it, and you'll only know it if David appears. You will not know it in any other way. If you had all the power of the world to shatter the heavens, you still wouldn't know your God. No matter how wise you became, you wouldn't know your God. Not a thing in this world could convince you that you are God, but his Son calling you Father. Nothing in the world could ever convince you that you're God, save his Son. So no one knows who the Son is except the Father. And no one knows who the Father is except the Son. And anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal it. So no one knows the Father save the Son, who is in the bosom of the Father. He has made him known.